Hi everyone, my name is Jordan Kuzel, and for my World Ethnography project, I chose Anthony Seeger's Why Suya Sing, a musical anthropology of an Amazonian people. So, a little bit about this book and its author. Anthony Seeger did this research for his dissertation of the Suya people of the Brazilian Amazon. He and his wife Judy lived with the Suya for 15 months between June 1971 and May 1973. Today I will be discussing Seeger's work, the different types of Suya songs, and the kinship, cultural, and societal aspects of Suya music, as well as the mouse ceremony. Okay, so first off, I'm going to explain the different types of Suya music. The first broad group that Seeger describes is Saren, which means to tell, and usually this is instructional, but there's also Me Tunji Ayaren, which means stories old people tell, and these are basically myths. To give an example of this, here's a clip of a recording of a Suya woman telling the myth on how the mouse gave the Suya people corn. The woman uses Lasandi to emphasize time or size, like, they traveled for a long time, or, it was a big baby. In these types of performances, voice tone is essential because there's no he said, she said markers. And Seeger also notes that tone, timbre, phonetic alterations, tempo are all used, as well as rhythmic and tonal structures. The next category is Kaperni, or speech. This refers to all speech, and there's a couple different subcategories. Kaperni Kasaga, or bad speech, is spoken by witches and jealous people. Runen Kaperni, or angry speech, is spoken by men who want to make their anger known publicly. Me Mumbai wa Kaperni, or everybody listens speech, are highly structured public speeches that are only given by political and ceremonial leaders. These instruct the community on how to behave correctly. They have long cadences and phrases and are similar to Kaperni Kadril, or slow speech, which are public speeches given by older men. Here's a brief clip of a slow speech. Next is Sengiji, or invocations. These are performed in private by adults of either gender, and I'll talk more about these in a later section. The final category is Ningiri, or song. This is all music, but Suya music is mostly vocal. These have fixed texts, and there are two main types. The first is Akiya, or shout songs. They are only performed by boys and adult men until they have not one, but several grandkids. They are sung in a high, forced voice and have two parts. The part with words, and the repetition of tete. Because of this, the Suya also call these songs tete da, or to sing the tete. Here's a clip of boys and men singing a shout song. The other type of song is Ningiri, which means unison song. These are performed at a lower register and are sometimes attributed to certain ceremonies, like the deer song. They're performed in groups, which might be determined by age, gender, name group, or they just might be mixed. Here's a clip of a unison song. onto kinship. When a baby is born, the parents decide on a group of relatives that will be its name giver, or kratumu. If it's a girl, the group will consist of the mother's brothers. If it's a boy, the group will consist of the father's sisters. The group chosen will hold the baby for a moment and then leave the house. Then those with the same name as the baby will do the same. However, the child isn't called by its chosen name until around the time it can walk, which is when the mouth ceremony is performed for it. Until then, it is just called baby. Each group belonged to a moiety group, or name group. Those in the same name group often performed songs and ceremonies together. Residence houses were also based on kinship. Seeger explains, quote, traditionally, before the 1960s, every adolescent boy was taken from the house he was born in and slept in the men's house until he was married and moved into the house of his wife's parents. End quote. There are also relationships in Suya society known as numbre kati, or kramnigiri, which Seeger translates as formal friend. These relationships have a high degree of formality. Formal friends aren't supposed to have sexual relationships with each other, and Seeger compares this to the relationships between brothers and sister-in-laws. Let's talk about Suya society. Their society, like many Native American societies, are deeply intertwined with nature. One great example of this is their pharmacology. While they do use herbal remedies, invocations are far more important to them. Herbal remedies are usually administered by family members, and no gifts are given in return. However, if someone asks another person to sing a sangere, or invocation, and that patient recovers, the singer expects to receive a gift from the person who requested it. These invocations work by the performer calling on a certain animal or object to give the patient a quality of that object. The example I'm about to play for you is a ritual specialist calling upon the wild pig, who can eat poison to help a young child be able to eat manioc. Quote, the formation of society as it is today was described in a number of myths, including some where songs were learned from partially human, partially animal beings in the process of metamorphosis. End quote. Metamorphosis plays a key role in songs. Seeger notes that the corn myth that I mentioned earlier has no song associated with it, possibly due to the lack of transformation in the song. In contrast to this, the origin myth of gardens contains metamorphosis, as after a woman was buried alive, different parts of her body turned into different garden products. Seeger writes, quote, among the Suya, where there was metamorphosis, there was song. Suya are always coming up with new songs. However, only me kuron kiri, or men without spirits, are the ones who can come up with and teach the new songs to the village. A Suya explained that one becomes a person without a spirit when they make a witch very jealous. The witch will steal your spirit in the middle of the night and then toss that spirit to wherever the desired object came from. Like, if it's honey, she'll throw it in a beehive, or if it's fish, then it's a river, and so on and so forth. And spirit loss will make a person very sick, and if their spirit doesn't return, that person's spirit will learn new songs from the plants or animals that they are with, and then will teach the new songs to the village. This is described as living in a state of halted metamorphosis. Seeger writes, Suya society was based on sharing and reciprocity, and giving to people was a fundamental social skill. If one did not give, a witch could make one ill. If one asked for too much too often, one could be considered a witch and killed. Some of these people were well respected for their knowledge of songs and could be granted the title of Me Ro Kinkande, or High Master of Suya Ceremony. They would decide on when a ceremony would be performed and if it was performed correctly. Where these songs were performed also had significance. Different parts of the village represented different parts of the cosmos. The area behind the houses were known as the dead side. Everything performed there was private, for example, invocations. Similarly, body ornamentation had a significant meaning as well, with the most important body ornamentation relating to hearing, singing, speaking, and dancing. Men and women used to wear large discs in their earlobes, and men wore discs in their lower lip. A person's ears were pierced around puberty, and a man's lower lip was pierced several years later, around the time he got married. Percussion was done only through the body, hence dancing was essential to make music. Seeger notes that only the older men had these piercings when he was doing his research, and that some elders weren't exactly happy that the younger generations weren't following these traditions. He writes about the speech that an older man gave that goes, quote, "Our children do not paint themselves with body paint. They do not wear armbands on their biceps or leg bands on their knees. Now their arms and legs are thin. All they want to do is wear white man's clothing. Shamelessly they walk around on their thin arms and legs. With their thin arms and legs, the enemy Indians will no longer be afraid of us, they will say. Let's kill the Sioux and raid them. And we will become whites with tiny thin legs like storks." The last section talks about some of the things I found interesting in Seeger's anecdotal notes about the mouse ceremony. The first of these being they used burity palm fronds to make cakes, and the Sioux seem to use burity palms for just about everything, not unlike how the Great Plains natives used buffalo or the native Polynesians used the coconut tree.
Consider the coconut!
Those capes were then painted with uricum, or a type of red dye. Each moiety group had different cape patterns, as well as having different body ornamentation and body paint patterns. When performing a ceremony, the name groups left their houses and danced in a certain pattern around the village. At the end of the ceremony, the women kill the mouse by plunging an arrow into the woven crowns. This is usually done by a sister or another female relative. Why Sioux Sing takes a look at Sioux society through an interesting lens, their music. Seeger does a phenomenal job of showing how music influences all aspects of Sioux life. To me, it really goes to show just how much of a universal language music can be, and how we're all influenced by it at some point in our lives. With that, this is JORDYN Kuzel signing off. Thanks for watching.
Was an anthropologist for his PhD. This man had a dissertation to write, so he searched out a group of people to find out about. He wanted to know the truth. So he turned on his tape recorder and asked, "Oh, who is your father? Who is your mother? Who is your sister, your uncle, your brother? Whom can you marry? Whom can you bury? What do you call your mother-in-law?" The tribe he studied was known as the Jay. They were used to getting their way. They liked to talk of all the people they'd slain, just so it would be perfectly plain that they were terribly fierce. But best they liked to corner him and say, "Oh, give us your hammock, give us your blankets, give us your salt and your soap and your matches. Why did you bring us so few beads and mirrors? Why didn't you bring us a new soccer ball?" The anthropologist took along a wife. She lived in fear of losing her life, but when she was carrying manioc on her head, she couldn't help thinking she'd rather be dead. A silent martyr